What's next for cryptocurrencies? Is the market tiring us out just to make some unexpected, impulsive move? Incredibly low valuations that may indicate either we will get a turbo boost or, from certain places you will see in this episode, we will start a bear market. Where is this place? The key one. That will tell us that indeed a bear market is starting, and the place where we can say, okay, there's still a rally. Up to $102,000 is possible. So all these zones and places that you absolutely need to know, you will see in this video, and without this knowledge, unfortunately, my dear ones, you might end up in a bad situation or simply sell at the wrong time or too late. Sell your coins and end up at a loss. So, without further ado, let's begin. Listen, let's start perhaps with ETH, loved by some, hated by others. And my dear ones, we'll start with a coin that I think can't get any worse. Of course, this is a bit humorous, but when it comes to ETH, you need to pay attention to one thing. Now we have a very tough market, and my task in this episode will be to show you the buying zones, the selling zones, so you don't end up in a tight spot during this bull market, and potential selling zones if we start to decline and enter an actual bear market. So listen, on ETH it's quite clear. I would say the situation, because we had a very strong, evident upward trend. Something happened here, well, it can't be unheard of. However, we did an overbalance of this entire move, this entire cluster, essentially the upward impulse. We have a beautiful halt at a very strong support, which is here between the value area low and the main point of control. That is between $1,600 flat and $1,750. We have an enormous support zone. And here for Ethereum, the only salvation, maybe not the only one, but a very strong one, is for us to hold within this zone. If we, my dear friends, were to do a retest around this green zone, in my opinion, this is definitely an interesting place for entering and holding Ethereum for a longer swing. Because if we now consider that a bull market might still happen, then indeed this Ethereum could attempt to break the ATH, and from there we would have a beautiful swing of 150% of the base move. However, let's not be overly optimistic, because it can go either way, and remember that partial selling is key here. So we enter Ethereum more or less on the retest of the green zone above, between $1,600 and $1,750. We take the first profits at $2,700. Of course, if someone wants to play it a bit safer and secure the position faster, then definitely at this point of control plus global value area high, it will be worth taking some percentage to secure a potential stop loss, which in this situation you should be setting below this zone here on the liquidity from these wicks, because listen, if we start to go down, breaking below $1,500, in my opinion, it may then indicate that we have a bearish confirmation on Ethereum and a drop to at least $900, that $1,000. So it's quite dangerous. There's no point in holding your positions for so long. Of course, here we are talking about the futures market. Remember that if you are also trading or simply swinging on the spot market, the advantage here is that if you are playing with coins that you already hold in your wallet, you don't have to. You don't have to. It's your decision whether you want to set stop losses, because even if we had a breakdown entering BSC, Ethereum would drop to a few $100s. It's probably just a matter of holding on for a few more years. Probably, so you should trade with money that you can simply afford to freeze if necessary, because with Ethereum, is it sensible to sell and lose 50% of your investment? Well, not really. It's better to hold on to it and later for X months, X years, just come out of it with a profit, unless you are over-leveraged, which I think shouldn't happen, and then it becomes a problem because you have too much money in a position and it becomes a little issue, especially with something like a 50% loss. Anyway, my dear friends, at this moment you can see the percentage of my private portfolio on the screen. This is a portfolio that includes Bitcoin and altcoins from ISO 2022. So indeed, if you got in earlier, even now after such strong declines, how the portfolio can be in the positive. So unfortunately, the perspective depends on where you stand, so always have a plan for that. And now, my dear friends, let's take a look at the dominance, at how the altcoins are doing at this moment. So listen, Bitcoin's dominance, something interesting is happening here. For me, the most interesting thing is that we are at a very high level, because on this main golden pocket from the weekly chart, Bitcoin is not really performing spectacularly, because looking at how Bitcoin appears at this moment, it doesn't look particularly impressive, because we are constantly holding at this main support level from which we are continuously trying to bounce back. However, if we look at the dominance, in my opinion, we should actually be much higher in terms of Bitcoin's valuations. But here, listen, there's a problem, because this market in this cycle is not functioning as it should. It's turbo-diluted. We have X million projects compared to Bitcoin. Compared to the previous cycle where we had 14,000 projects, and that money could actually flow into altcoins. That money nicely fluctuated between Bitcoin and the top 50, top 100. You can also see this in the previous charts. Here, for example, Ethereum to Bitcoin in 2017, Ethereum Osan Oak to Bitcoin in 2018, and at this moment, Ethereum to Bitcoin, which can also be said to be a chart that determines to some extent the price levels of altcoins. We have Bitcoin at ATH, and altcoins are lagging behind. It is, one could say, a tragedy for those who had a predominant portion of their portfolio in altcoins. That's why it's always worth considering whether it's better to keep 50-60% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. I personally do it that way. So the situation here is not very promising because it tells us that this alt season is very, very much at risk because there is such a strong, so heavily diluted that imagine and think logically how many projects would have to maybe not even collapse, but have their funds move to the main top 50, top 100, where there's really not much money left. Because either we had pump and dumps or we had some scam coins where the devs simply took all the money or people liquidated. So there's a very, very big problem here with finding money now to pump altcoins and make it happen there. Well, 10x Bitcoin. And still very much so because we currently have an institutional bull market. So investment funds, big players, banks and countries are entering crypto. But where? Well, they are mainly entering Bitcoin. I'm just wondering what's going on with Ethereum that supposedly they're buying this Ethereum, but look at how it's performing. Moreover, if we look at the total 3, it's not in a good place because we are below the main support amount line, actually below 820 billion at this moment. For us, the most important thing is not to break below the last swing high here, because technically that could signal a drop to this breaker and simply dump those alts even more. A drop really to the price levels from the bear market, where in such a situation is my portfolio? Of course, thanks to Bitcoin, it would still be in the positive, but if I didn't have that Bitcoin, we would probably be at break-even because even if we look shortly at Phantom or other altcoins, I'll show you how close these prices are and what you should be doing at this moment. But let's move on, my dear friends, now to Solana. So listen, this episode is meant for you to know what to do, when to buy, when to sell, so let's start maybe now with altcoins. So first up is Solana. We are in a very strong support zone, which you should consider if you believe, of course, because the decision is up to you. Do you believe there will be a bull market or not? In my opinion, let me just quickly go back to Bitcoin because we forgot to move on to Bitcoin. There is a chance for that. Bitcoin hasn't had the final say yet because here, for us to have an actual negation of the bull market, and confirmation of entering a bear market where I will then sell all my cryptocurrencies. Not before, listen, first by dropping below this green zone, which is below 71,000, which everyone is waiting for. So either we won't reach this zone and will build a nice upward trend, or we will break through it like butter. And the last important point, which is around $69,000. If we leave an empty wick here, meaning we make a quick move and immediately buy back, it will be a good sign. Remember this too, for the volume to enter there. If we start to slowly go down closing, then listen, let's not fool around, let's not do DCA for the rest of our lives until Bitcoin drops to some total bottom. So for me, this will be confirmation, but below the 1 week high that we are simply closing badly. We are closing, so to speak, entering a bear market. I will probably sell all my crypto, still Bitcoins at a profit because I bought Bitcoin at 51,200. So the last batch will still be in profit because I sold the first one for $84,000, the second for $102,000, and I actually wanted to wait for the third one until Bitcoin breaks out somewhere to $115,000, $116,000. I'm not saying it's impossible yet, but definitely still towards that. My dear friends, we need a little time. The weekly chart looks quite good. We held on to this value area low, which is a good sign for us. A quick buyback. Now we'll see how the candle, this impulsive bearish candle, will be tested. Anyway, if we go to the daily chart, we can see better how the price action looks. We broke through that low. We're trying to break through somewhere around here. Listen, the 90,000. Maybe I'll switch to this chart for a moment because it will be more visible here. I have my own, you could say, orders or alerts around 85.5 thousand because if there isn't, listen, meaning here in this place, if there isn't a large volume coming in and we don't have the strength to break through this red zone, which is this fair value gap here from this impulsive candle, then we have this, the so-called fair value gap inversion. And from here, we can get a continuation of the declines to the 1.618 extended, which is to $74,000. This is a very likely scenario, so be prepared. Of course, no one is forcing you to short, but be prepared for the possibility that if Bitcoin falls to these levels, the question is whether you will stick to your plan and make purchases or decide that it is too risky. Of course, I always stick to my plan. At most, I get stopped out and then I have something to analyze later, what went well, what went wrong. So there's still a chance with Bitcoin. I see that this morning Bitcoin is trying to pump, which is definitely a good dawn sign. Now, my dear friends, we are moving on to Chainlink. I know that many of you are holding this Chainlink along with me. At this moment, as I told you, in fact, on yesterday's live, I told you on the last live sessions, that the area around $12.5 to $13 is a good buying zone on spot, where if you want to do DCA and you don't have this project yet, it is definitely a really good zone. So from here, my dear friends, technically speaking, considering that this is the main resistance to support flip, we would have the possibility of a return attack. So the charts, despite being very low and not looking good, don't look, as I said, tragic. If we were to look at it from the perspective that the bull market will come again, then the levels of altcoins, the levels of Bitcoin, the valuations you see are turbo good. Turbo cheap for simply buying, but decide for yourselves what you see. Personally, I was buying some alts, buying Bitcoin during these dips. I still believe in the bull market. However, now we need to look at how the price action looks, how the volume enters these coins, and simply decide on some moves. So technically, we will have an attack at $17, and that is our zone 17, 19. This is quite an important zone. So you could simply say that looking at this swing high, which is important here, and all the liquidity we have here, this is quite a broad zone. So to put it more precisely, the area around $18, $19 will be our key zone for regaining liquidity, I would like to say, regaining this upward trend. If we break through this breaker that has formed here, we have a positive sign for Chainlink to aim for $26, $28, so you need to keep an eye on that. Of course, you can also hedge your positions, so at the resistance points I'm telling you about, there are good spots, namely the so-called major resistance, which are the main resistances, where you can actually take shorts with very good risk-to-reward ratio. Why? Because it's easy to set stop losses horizontally to previous elements on the chart. Remember that what is on the left side of the chart must sooner or later be tested on the right side of the chart, so the risk-to-reward ratio. You will have a very good one here. Remember that there are also trades that will catch the stop loss, but that's an inevitable thing. For a trader, these stop losses must occur, so don't be afraid of them. It's important that you just secure good money management, good position sizing, so that it doesn't wipe out your account, but only takes a very small percentage when stop losses are potentially triggered. And now, my dear ones, what many of you have been waiting for, which is Phantom Sonic. Well, Alsan, listen here, I have to admit that Phantom is not performing the best. Why is it not performing the best? Because we had a fairly deep drop on the daily chart below the anchored view up, also known as anchois. However, at this moment we see some small recovery. In fact, when we switch to the 7, it's only here that we see the incoming volume. For us, the key, most important element regarding Sonic will be, listen, not just breaking above this view up, but the green zone, which is above 55 cents. This will be a sign for us that Phantom wants to return to at least 80, 87 cents. And this will be the key zone, where, my dear friends, in my opinion, if you are in Phantom or intend to buy it, buying it will only make sense for the cautious. Above 54.72 on Phantom, because here we might have a swing precisely to around those 80 few cents. Now, if Phantom performs well, it will be a good sign. However, remember that here in this area, meaning around 80, 87 cents. Take the first profits from this position, because we don't yet have confirmation of the continuation of the bull market, so you must take profits to avoid, as I said, being left holding the bag. A very important place. There's no point in hesitating and holding on here. Of course, there's a chance, that Phantom might still drop, so definitely set stop losses here. In this market, at this moment, they are extremely important. And my dear friends, Cardano, quite an interesting coin, which had an incredible boost after some maneuvers by Charles Hoskinson. At this moment, if someone is truly a supporter of Cardano, then they have a chance to buy at a good price. We are still, despite everything, in an upward trend on Cardano, which is interesting because here we have higher and higher peaks, higher and higher troughs. We had, of course, some kind of breakthrough, a liquidity pull related to the crash in Bitcoin. However, I was buying here in this pivot value area high and 6-18 zone, essentially the golden pocket, which is this entire area between 67 and 70 cents. Personally, I was doing DCA, which means I was buying. This was probably my very first purchase of Cardano. Quite high because I hadn't bought Cardano before. However, here, due to some governmental information, I think it's possible to buy. Expecting some kind of pump? It looks nice technically, regardless of whether I like this project or not, because I'm not particularly fond of it, but I look at the chart technically. So technically, looking at the chart, we are in an interesting place. Therefore, you also need to set stop losses, because it's not guaranteed that we won't fulfill this beautiful move here, where we have a sell site inefficiency. However, with these wicks, it's might have already been filled, so the path for Cardano might indeed lead upwards. It is an interestingly constructed chart. Interesting candles and formations are building up, so indeed, from here, after this manipulation, we could try to go upwards again. If we start, my dear friends, to test this big weekly candle, meaning essentially this entire weekly drop, remember that along the way, around 81 cents and 97 cents, you should take profits, probably leaving the last part of the package, whether it's 10% or 30% for some 2D ATH. However, you must take profits, because if you don't learn to take profits, you won't start earning in this market and skillful profit taking. That's a completely different thing. However, the skill of taking profits itself is actually very difficult, because you simply have to set aside that greed. You will earn less, but you will earn more securely. So here the situation with Cardano is quite interesting. The green zone is really very interesting for taking positions. Listen, we're moving on to H-bar, which is Hedera, because here we have quite an interesting situation. We had a very long consolidation on the weekly chart, and at this moment we have started testing major swing high, actually old major swing high, so a place that is very important. Additionally, our horizontal release of this liquidity, releasing these wicks, so in plain language, here, the vicinity of this zone is very large. Liquid, very large liquid, which as you can see is immediately bought back. However, there is no desire for growth. So here with caution, you must listen. Be careful. If we continue to hold at this red zone, we might get some upward impulse. So definitely here when it comes to DCA first purchases on HDR, a good, interesting, cool place, but we can certainly fall lower. As for the lower levels, you should be interested in, the main level will be 10.2 cents, at which I personally will be buying more HDRs, adding them to my portfolio, because this is my long-term pick. I believe in this project. It's very interesting. I have also met the CEO of this project and Quant Network as well. So I simply want to own this project. Should we short, my dear friends? Is the question of whether we want to short altcoins a good one? The question is a good one. However, shorting altcoins at this moment is already too late. It's too late because we are at such low valuations that shorting these altcoins is quite risky. Of course, they can continue to fall absolutely, but the valuations are so low that the risk-to-reward ratio is simply poor. I would rather try to look for those spot swings, long ones. However, if we get confirmation that we are in a downtrend on individual coins, then indeed you can catch those shorts, but not at the bottoms. Remember, we catch shorts at the tops. If we are, for example, on the 4-hour chart here in a downtrend, don't catch shorts here, catch shorts at the main resistances, for instance, around 27 cents. My dear friends, SUI, a very interesting project. Personally, I bought a package around 220. Why? Because that was my buying zone. This is the main support on SUI. The purchase for growth was made around 2.20, and I mentioned this zone on Discord. If the alt season returns, if it even wants to go further, then from here on SUI we could see a very interesting upward movement. Of course, remember, we don't keep adding to the bitter end with all these coins. If we see a breakdown, then either you have weak hands and sell because you have too much money and are in the red, or you hold for the next cycles. For the next years, just hold on to those coins, because remember, you only lose when you sell. If you don't sell, you still have the coins. Their value has just dropped, but the money isn't lost. So, SUI between 2.07 and 2.20, in my opinion, is a good, interesting pick for purchases. Of course, there are lower zones that I will update for you on Discord, but for now, it simply doesn't make much sense. Regarding taking profits, here we could close this structure that has formed at a maximum of 1.66. However, when it comes to profits, remember, we have a nicely drawn head and shoulders here, so at this moment, the neckline at 373 is the first strong, good take profit, and of course a potential attack on the ATH on SUI. My dear friends, XRP is one of the few coins that is holding its ground in the region. Remarkably, because we haven't dropped below its main liquidity, the main support, which is around 2.11. Of course, liquidity grabs have occurred, but that's normal. Those who watch my live streams or are in the patron zone on Discord know that I talked about buying at 2.11, which in my opinion is a good spot. XRP has been incredibly surprising in this cycle. And in my opinion, it will surprise again, so I'm holding on to my package, not selling any XRP, not even from Phantom. I sold something there, but I didn't sell any XRP, so really we are still in a strong confirmed upward trend. Besides, I bought XRP at 42 cents, auctions, and 51 cents. So my situation is a bit different because I have such a good entry point that even if we drop to 150 now, I would still be in a good profit. Here with XRP, anything around 2.10 will be a good peak for buying. As for those profits, make the decision yourselves. I am holding this project for retirement, so to speak, for years, so maybe I'll take some small profits after breaking the ATH or around the ATH, this 2.93 here, maybe 5 to 10% at most, but rather to roll this project again later, meaning in case of a potential correction. I will buy back because I want my exposure to XRP to increase for free exponentially. So if I take profits and it drops, I add more, increasing my exposure not with my own money but through rolling, and my dear friends, rolling. This is one of the best things when it comes to investing in crypto or traditional markets because you increase your exposure for free. This is, of course, something you need to spend a little time on with the charts, but if you invest $1,000 in a given coin, it makes 100%, and you have $2,000, you take out 1,000 to be safe and roll the rest, you won't be at a loss. 100% on an altcoin. Doing this is not a problem. The problem is taking the profit because you want more. So if an altcoin gives you 100%, you take the initial investment, roll the rest, and over months, over years, you continuously increase your exposure to this project by selling at peaks and buying back with that money at dips because that should be the most important for you. Not what the price will be in 5 minutes, but how many free coins of a well-known project you will have. And that is what will truly bring you money. Anyway, this is my long-term strategy, precisely on the spot. And my dear friends, that's all. Thank you very much for watching the episode. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the bull market will still come? Do you think we are entering a bear market because the statement will be very important. We'll see where the majority of people are who think the bull market might still come. So, of course, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episodes. And now, once again, thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful weekend. We'll see each other on the left over the weekend. Take care. For now, see you.